Professor Quentin Tremble was sure his contraption would work. It had to. He'd spent decades cobbling it together from spare cogs, vacuum tubes, and a gramophone horn, its gleaming copper surface a testament to his tireless efforts. The time displacement unit, as he dubbed it, hummed gently, its needle hovering precariously over the year 2025. With a deep breath and a slight tremor in his hand, Professor Tremble flipped the activation switch. Light erupted, engulfing him in a blinding vortex of colors. He felt a peculiar lurch in his stomach, not unlike a poorly executed cartwheel on a merry-go-round. Then, as quickly as it started, it stopped. He cautiously opened his eyes. Blinking against the unfamiliar brightness, the air buzzed with a strange energy, and the professor felt a thrill course through him. He'd done it! He'd traveled through time. The professor found himself standing in what appeared to be a bustling city park. Gleaming towers of glass and steel pierced the sky, dwarfing the quaint brick buildings he was accustomed to. Strange, levitating vehicles zipped silently overhead, leaving trails of light in their wake. A group of children nearby were tossing a glowing disc between them, their laughter echoing in the air. Cautiously, the professor took a step forward, his boots crunching on something that crunched like gravel, but shimmered like 1,000 tiny rainbows. He bent down to examine it, scratching his head in bewilderment. What in the world was this futuristic gravel? This future was already proving to be a most perplexing place. A young woman with hair the color of a sunset and more metal in her face than seemed strictly necessary approached him, her brow furrowed in concern. "Are you all right, sir? You seem a tad discombobulated." Professor Tremble straightened his spectacles and adjusted his bow tie, a tad flustered. "Discombobulated? My dear, I'm merely intrigued." "Yes, intrigued by the advancements of this era. Pray tell, what year is it?" The young woman blinked, her eyebrow piercing, glinting in the sunlight. "It's 2025, sir. You okay?" she asked again, her voice tinged with a hint of amusement. 2025! The professor exclaimed, nearly dropping his time-traveling monocle. "Good heavens, that explains a great deal and yet perplexes me further still." He spent the next several hours in a state of perpetual astonishment. He marveled at the self-driving vehicles, his eyes nearly popping out of his head when one politely beeped at him to cross the street. He gawked at the wall-sized screens displaying moving images, convinced they were some form of sorcery. And he nearly had a conniption when he encountered a robotic dog dispensing parking tickets. He learned about something called the Internet, which seemed to be a repository of all human knowledge, cat videos, and heated debates about things he couldn't quite grasp. He also learned about social media, where people shared their every thought, meal, and dance move with the world. He tried to explain to anyone who would listen about his time-traveling exploit, but they all just smiled politely and handed him a small rectangular device. "Here," one young man said with a wink, "make a TikTok about it. You'll be viral in no time." Professor Tremble, ever the pragmatist, decided to embrace the absurdity of it all. He may not have understood this brave new world, but by Jove, he was going to experience it. He learned to operate the small rectangular device, apparently called a smartphone, and after much trial and error managed to film a short video of himself attempting to purchase a cup of tea from a vending machine. He posted it online with the caption, "Time traveler baffled by modern tea-making contraptions." To his utter astonishment, his video was an instant sensation. People found his bewildered reactions to 21st century life utterly hilarious. He became an overnight internet celebrity, his inbox flooded with messages from people eager to hear more about his adventures through time. Professor Tremble, the accidental influencer, sat back in his futuristic hotel room, sipping his finally acquired cup of tea and chuckling to himself. Perhaps the future wasn't so bad after all. Now, if only he could figure out how to work the self-flushing toilet.